In section 1.15, we're talking about how to convert units. So this would be going, from cups to pints, or from yards to miles, or from meters to kilometers, right? So changing units of measure. And what we basically want to do is, in all these examples, you want to start with what you have, right? So if I start with 30 centimeters, I'm going to write down my 30 centimeters. And what I want is to multiply this by some conversion factor to end up with meters. All right, so you're always going to start every problem with this. You're going to start with your given information. You're going to write down what you're trying to end with, right? We're trying to end with meters. And then you're going to multiply by some scale factor, all right? So what I know, and how you're going to set up all these, is I do not want centimeters anymore, right? I want to get rid of the centimeters. So because I have centimeters in the numerator, I want to put centimeters in the denominator of this fraction. That will cause them to cancel. And I want meters in my final answer, right? This meters is in the numerator, so therefore I want meters to appear in my numerator here. Notice how now centimeters and centimeters cancel, and that will just get me the meters that I want. So in this fraction here, what numbers go here are just the factor, right? That conversion factor. And I know that in 1 meter, there are 100 centimeters. It tells me that right here. All right. Now these you should already know on your own. If you do not already know these, then these are things that you're going to have to memorize. All right. So this should be in your head. If you do not know this off the top of your head, please go ahead and memorize that. I will not be giving that information to you on a quiz or a test. So we're going to go ahead and we get 30 over 100. And again, that's in meters. We can reduce this, and this will be 3/10 of a meter. And that is your answer. Problem number 2, we're trying to convert 5 gallons into quarts. So I'm going to start with my 5 gallons. I'm going to multiply this by some conversion factor. We don't know what it is yet. And that's going to be equal to quarts. All right, now what I know, if I go to my table, again, we should have this memorized, but in 1 gallon, there are 4 quarts. So I want to get rid of the gallons. So because gallons are in my numerator, I need gallons in my denominator. And I want quarts in my final answer, so I'm going to put quarts on top. We see that the gallons cancel, and we know that there are 4 quarts in 1 gallon. And if we multiply across, 5 times 4 gets me 20. So there are 20 quarts in 5 gallons. All right. Last up, we've got 5,600 inches, and we're turning these into miles. So I'm going to start with my 5,600 inches. Now, if we notice, it doesn't tell us exactly how many, it tells us how many inches are in a foot, and it tells us how many feet are in a yard. It tells us how many yards are in a mile, but we don't know exactly how many inches are in a mile. So what we're going to start with is, let's start by getting these inches into feet. All right, so I don't want inches anymore, so I'm going to get rid of the inches, top and bottom, and I'm going to turn them into feet first. And I know that in 1 foot there are 12 inches. Okay, so now I have feet as my units, but I don't want feet, I want miles. And we know that I'm going to have to multiply some other conversion factor to get this to be miles. So I don't want the feet anymore, so I'm going to try to get rid of the feet by putting them in the denominator. And we know that I can convert feet to miles. We know that in 1 mile, there are 5,280 feet. We see that the feet cancel on top and bottom. So now I'm left with miles, right? Miles are my only units, right? All my other units are gone, right? These are all canceled out. So now I end up with this many miles. And this is going to give me 5,600 in the numerator. And then in the denominator, I have to multiply 12 times 5,280. All right, so we get 5,600 in the numerator, and then we know that 5,280 times 12 is going to give us 63,360. All right, from here, we can go ahead and divide, and when we divide, we can take that 5,600 and we're going to divide that by 63,360. And this is going to give us, if we leave it as a fraction, 35 over 396 miles. All right, now that's a good answer. If we want that approximated, maybe they ask you to round to the nearest 10th or 100th or whatever it is. If you take this number and turn it into a decimal, this is approximately 0.0883833, and it kind of goes on forever with that pattern. All right. So if they ask you to round, maybe they ask you to round to the nearest 100th, you could say 0.09 maybe. All right. Okay, but it really just depends on what the question is asking you, right? If they ask you to round it as a decimal, maybe they want an exact answer, so this would be exact. And then this is rounded. All right, but it really just depends on what they ask you to find, okay? But that's the whole process here. That's how you would go ahead and convert all your units. Again, I would expect you to know this information here. And one that's not listed, we did say that there are 5,280 feet in 1 mile. I think we know that one from earlier in our lives. So make sure you know that one as well. That would be something that I would expect you to know on a quiz or a test. All right. And that's all for converting units. If you have any other questions, please